It's me and this tree, and it's pretty damn big, and I think I'm just gonna have to meme it. What do you think, Felix? Should we meme it?
So, did you ever notice that sometimes memes can just shut down a conversation? A lot of times they're really funny, but then they just sort of are the final word on something. And sometimes I find that kind of frustrating, actually.
But I've been thinking about selfies, and I don't do many. I know I post a lot of photos, but I like being behind the camera. And my girlfriend was pressing me on this a little bit, asking me, why? And so, does not taking selfies say something? Or is it just, my own neuroses or self-image or thinking about what I want to project in the world? So, gosh, I have to live up to these expectations. Or I don't know, probably just overthinking it.
I just want to say that I'm really not into taking selfies that much, unless it has to do with something very specific and dear to my heart, like a selfie with my children on the top of a mountain I've climbed, or a selfie of my NetNarr amazing students.
So I'm thinking now, Mia, if
Yeah.
I was a meme right now, what text are you going to put on my face?
I don't know. I'm really bad at memes. My students pointed it out, actually.
They did?
Yes, they did, because I had sort of made a NetNarr meme in my blog post that kind of the logic of it wasn't quite there.
But it's fascinating. Like, what is it? Like, it does provide, it's almost like an expressed emotion in a way, like a burst of emotion.
It's a small packaged opinion, which usually has a bit of irony and some good humor as well. But I'm also thinking that oftentimes they shut down more complex dialogue, that memes can sort of do their work in a way, but also kind of shut down the possibility for other ways of thinking about something. But
so you mean sometimes we resort it when we really feel like don't like saying it or explaining it?
something like that it becomes a replacement for something more complex in terms of an expression.
Yeah. And I think there's some kind of connection, as we move this week into talking about selfies and self-representation. It's obviously you can do a meme on my selfie, but there's still that kind of idea about what we're expressing digitally about ourselves, whether an idea or ourselves as literally putting ourselves out there.
Yeah. I think one of the key issues with the selfie and the whole issue of identity and self-representation in the digital age is that I think it comes up, will I exempt myself from this, or do I refrain from self-representation? But in the end, if one's online, then in one form or another, there's a trace. So these things have to be navigated, even if not explicitly. There has to be a kind of pointed understanding of how we present ourselves online. And it's a very careful art, I think, whether or not one engages in the traditional selfie. So hopefully that'll be the overarching kind of thinking point for the week.
So what's the traditional selfie?
The traditional selfie is the duck face.
Really?
Right?
What does that mean?
That means good angle, good lighting. Make sure you filter out the dark circles under your eyes, undefrizz the hair. Obviously, things that I'm not engaging in right now.
You thought about this, though.
Oh, sure. I mean, I think many people have. But whether or not they service our ability to connect as humans, that's a whole other arena.
Yeah, and there was a thing I didn't really. I was trying to explain in an email, like the wondering about, like, it seems to be very important that, I mean, it's more. Kelly did this in her blog post. It's more than a self-portrait. I mean, people say, like, people have done self-portraits for a long time. It's a tradition in painting, but there's something about there's more to it, and especially I think when we put it in our social stream and what we're saying or trying to say about ourselves or project to people that we are, connected to it in whatever ways, in terms of whether it's a massive following or whether it's our family. And so that's what seems interesting about the net selfie, if that's a thing.
Yeah, no, I think that the key difference between the self-portrait, the traditional self-portrait, versus the selfie is precisely that networked online environment, which suggests that at once there's that sort of self-contemplation in crafting a sense of self, but also an aspiration to be a part of something, part of a community, a hope to be connected in some way.
Yeah.
And I think that's the interesting part, that second part.
Yeah. I often just look at the eyes and I'm trying to figure out, like, what are they looking for? When they're when you're looking at the camera, I know people do mirror shots and things, and at the same time, it's just a fun way to be in the moment, and there's the thing that happens when you're with a group and you have to huddle closely to fit everybody in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a moment that you want to share. So, all these things to try to unwrap are very complex, whether it's, some people can say it's narcissistic. And some people say, no, it's just about, sharing, with people I care about what I'm doing in this great moment.
Yeah, I think that there's some that do that whole idea of capturing the moment and placing the self within this enigmatic moment. But I think there's also the element of looking for an understanding of yourself by looking at the way other people might look at you, which is an interesting kind of complexity in this digital age.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Don't laugh. So let's talk for a minute about the project that you're doing, because this is what we're asking people to participate this week.
Yeah, so it's an exciting project. I'm pairing up with another Fulbright, an American Fulbright in Norway this year. Her name is Hannah, and she and I are partnering to work with the Bergen Public Library and the Trondheim Public Library to install a public art project in which we curate and aggregate a response to this whole question around selfie culture. So we've created a hashtag. It's called Selfie, Unselfie. And in essence, we're asking people to think through a two-part understanding of self-representation in the digital age. So the first part is taking a traditional selfie and then thinking about the things it doesn't or cannot capture about your complex identity. And then the second part of the prompt is trying to create an unselfie, that is moving away from the traditional portrait self-representation and thinking about other ways you might represent yourself. And that can be an image, it can be in text, it can be in some other kind of digital artifact. But ultimately, the unselfie might actually become a more intimate artifact for who you really are than your face itself, in that traditional lens. So we're curious about what people are going to do with the juxtaposition between the traditional selfie versus this unselfie concept. Sometimes more is said with less. And I think that's part of the inspiration of the unselfie part of the selfie unselfie idea.
So basically, people will submit, they'll send to Twitter or Instagram with the hashtag. Their selfie with them in it and their selfie without them in it, right?
Yeah. So basically, we hope that people will either choose Instagram or Twitter and always use the hashtag selfie unselfie to include the two juxtaposed images. But a key component of the composition of the digital artifact is the text that's included, which is in some sense a kind of frame or textual response to the distinction between the two. So the words underneath are just as important as the two images in juxtaposition.
So what are you going to do for your unselfie?
I haven't figured it out yet. I think I might use the selfie use the selfie that I took at the beginning of NetNarr, because I think that captures a certain version of me that I'm interested in sharing with others. And I know exactly why I use the traditional form of the selfie in order to share online. But in regards to the unselfie, I have some ideas. One of them was to take a picture of what's on my bedside table, because I think that says a lot about who I am. But there are a million little glimpses that can just be seen in my personal space that might reveal something much more about me than what you can see in that selfie. So the point is to try to find something that's both engaging and also revealing in a different kind of way. Haven't figured it out yet, but I will soon.
So what suggestions do you have? Because that's a hard thing to, I mean, you want
For the
to obviously,
unselfie?
yeah, obviously you want some people to give some hard thought into how they represent themselves without themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I mean, I don't want to fill someone else's imagination with what they know of themselves. I think that's where the creative aspect of this prompt comes from and is exciting. But yeah, there are many ways to share a trace of yourself, right? It could be even in language, it could be in sound, it could be in video, it can be an image. It doesn't have to be like a photographic image as well. So all those kind of expansive understandings of what's possible will hopefully get the creative juices flowing for everyone engaging in the prompt.
And then all these are going to go in an exhibit at the library? Is it going to be online too?
Yeah. All of these will be kind of in a grid style curation, which kind of is in live feed or moving dynamically as more and more contribute, and can be scrollable in a big screen in the library. And there'll be, of course, an artist statement and maybe even some individual videos on commentary statements from people who've been involved with the project about what they've learned and what they've thought about in the process of creating their selfie unselfie.
I'm intrigued, and I'm anxious to see what our students come up with. And
Me too.
I'm gonna have to put some hard thought into what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. I think that one of the places we started at in NetNarr was talking about art and the precursor to digital art. And one of the things we talked about was the found object. And this idea is seemingly like reiterative lately in my life. And so the found object might be a very good place to start in thinking about how one might represent themselves. Like, so there are objects all around us that we don't see much in because they sort of envelop us in our physical space. But the found object might be a good way to make an unselfie too. You just have to open your eyes and see what's around you, I think, a little bit.
I'm looking around the room. It sounds like, though, ideally it's something pretty subtle. Like, oh yeah, I just take a picture of my dog. Yeah, big deal. Everybody knows that. Like, you know, it almost needs to be something that is a pretty subtle suggestion.
Yes, and I think also a little bit intimate, which is what is kind of the trick of it.
Okay. Wow. This is going to be interesting.
I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. And thank you for the background music too. I hear some guitar going on.
Oh, that's James playing a little in the background.
No,
he's tinkering.
Yeah. No, we need a little bit of a soundtrack, right?
Sure. Yeah, that kind of tinkering on the guitar is ever present in our house. If it's not James, it's my son. So,
oh, cool. All right.
Yeah.
We'll see what tinkering we do this week.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. See ya.
See ya.